Hello, in this video I'm going to take you through a retouching workflow that will hopefully help you to cut a few corners when tidying up your images. This is my start image here, and you can see there are lots of messy markings on the bottom of the pool here that we want to remove to come up with something cleaner and better. And to do this we can use a few little tips and tricks with content aware tools and selection tools in Photoshop. So let's get started. The first thing I'd like to do here is select all of the messy parts of the image. And you can use whichever selection tool you like for this. I quite like the quick selection tool, so I'm going to use that, start to paint over some of these areas here, and then I might switch to the polygonal lasso tool, and I can hold shift and click to add to that first selection. So just using a variety of different selection tools here, I'm going to try and isolate all of the messy patches within the frame here. And the selection doesn't need to be perfect here. We just want to make sure we've got all of these untidy areas covered. And if the quick selection tool goes wrong at all, we can hold Alt and Paint to subtract from the area like that. So now I've got all of those areas selected. What I'm going to do is expand the selection slightly. So we can do this by going to Select, Modify, Expand, and the value here will depend on the resolution of your image. 5 will work fine for this image. And with that done, I'm going to go to Select and Save Selection. And we'll give the selection a name. Let's call it Messy Pool. And hit OK. And now I can deselect with Command or Control and D. That's Command D on a Mac, Control D on a PC. And now I'm going to make another selection. This time I'd like to select the figure here. So I'm going to grab the quick selection tool from the tools panel and paint over here using it. And again, if the tool goes wrong at all, we can hold Alt and Paint to subtract areas from the selection like this. And we could perhaps go to Select and Mask, and this is the new version of Refine Edge, and then we can just up the radius here to improve the edge of the selection slightly, and then hit OK. And again, we're going to save the selection. And then I'm going to expand the selection again, so we'll go to Select, Modify, Expand once more. Again, we'll set it around about 5 will work here, and hit OK. And the reason we've taken the time to make these selections is because content-aware fill performs better when we erase the subject. And that's because that just leaves all the background pixels, and the background pixels are what we want to use to fill in the messy areas. We don't want to confuse the content-aware fill command with the pixels that make up our subject here. So if we go to our layers panel, we'll duplicate the background layer by dragging it to the new layer icon, and I'm going to hit backspace or delete to get rid of the subject. And if I hide that background layer there, you can see that's the result. So now all we have left are background pixels. In fact, there are a few fingers over here, so we can just grab the eraser tool and paint to remove those as well. So now we're going to load our first selection that we made of all the messy background details. So let's go to Select, Load Selection, and we'll set the channel here to the messy pool, hit OK to bring back that selection. Then we'll go to Edit, Fill, set this to Content Aware, and hit OK. And that's done a pretty good job of filling in all of that messy background detail. And in fact, just as a comparison, I'll show you what would happen if we didn't delete the subject. So let's just duplicate the background layer here, and we'll hide that top layer for now. And this time, again, we'll go and load our selection of the messy bits and try filling. And this time the results are much worse. You can see we've got all these horrendous patches around the edge of the subject here. And this is because the fill command has actually analyzed the entire image, including the subject, to try and fill in the selected area. But on our top layer here, because we removed the subject, the command is only searching the background pixels to fill in the extra detail. So it's much more effective to delete the subject and then apply the Content Aware Fill command. So now if we deselect and reveal the background, you can see how we've filled in a lot of that messy detail, but obviously we're eating into our subject in different places around here. So this is the time to load our second selection that we made. So with that top layer highlighted, we can go to, again, select Load Selection, and we'll load our swimmer selection, hit OK, and then all we have to do is hold Alt and click the Add Layer Mask icon, which will hide our selected area, resulting in a nice clean background. And inevitably there'll be a few messy patches that need tidying up, so we can click the Create New Layer icon here to create a new empty layer, then grab the Spot Healing Brush tool, make sure it's set to sample all layers, and then we can zoom in closer and get rid of any remaining messy patches just by painting over them with the Spot Healing Brush tool. There also might be a few little messy edges around here, in which case we can switch to the Clone tool, hold Alt to sample a clean area nearby, and then paint to tidy up any little messy patches like that. And then we can switch back to the Spot Healing Brush tool. I can hold Shift and click once here, and then click again at the other end of that line to draw a straight heal line between those 2 points, which speeds things up when trying to remove lines like this along the floor. And a few minutes spent working around the image with the Clone and Heal tools is enough to finish off the job. And that's my finished image. In fact, we could perhaps just add a curves adjustment layer here just to boost contrast slightly with an S-shaped curve like that. And then let's take a quick look back through our layers here. This was our original image. We then duplicated it and made a new layer, filled in all those messy background bits with Content Aware Fill before cloning and healing on a separate layer, and then adding a curves layer to finish off. And that's it.